Cana, MAnzella, and today we are interviewing Ed Reynolds on the topic on what is the annual effect of a dolphin hunt in Taiji, Japan.
Hi, I'm Ed Reynolds.
The first question we have...
So we can pause it? Can we pause it in
Yeah.
the interview?
Yeah,
I
I just edited it out.
What? Oh, you're going to edit it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes I want to think about my answers.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
First question. How did growing up around the marine environment shape what you do today?
Well, when I was a little boy growing up, I lived all the ways by the water, starting out in New Orleans, Louisiana, which harvests a lot of seafood and also provides a lot of energy to the rest of the United States. Then we moved to Venezuela, where I lived by a lake called Maracaibo, and my dad got hepatitis from eating contaminated oysters. And then we moved to Holland, where we were near the North Sea, and London. And in Europe, the environment and energy are really strongly related to what we do. Also, I swam, and I was in the water all the time, wherever I was. And so as I've grown up being around the marine environment, I've fallen in love with water. And I swim in the oceans now, and I scuba dive around the world. I've scuba dived in the Galapagos Islands and the Caribbean and other parts of the world where I'm in the marine environment all the time. So if I look back on my 30-year career, water is a common theme. And the marine environment, which I'm not as involved in today as much as I am because I do ocean swimming in my normal business, I became very interested in more of an environmental friendliness rather than extractive energy. Okay?
What inspired you to develop the Reynolds Group?
Do you want to ask a question too, or
No, I just, yeah.
You're going to ask me, and I'm going to follow your lead.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the Reynolds Group, I did a lot of soul searching, and what I wanted to do was get into a field that is multidisciplinary, and it's my own business where I would be helping protect the environment. So at Brown and Root, where I worked before I started the Reynolds Group, I was interested in building offshore oil platforms. And the idea of sustainability and the idea of the environment wasn't really a big thing. I remember my dad taking me out on a barge where they were trying to remove a structure that had collapsed in the Gulf of Mexico. And the coolest thing was when they set off the explosives and all the dead fish came to the surface. So we had blood and fish, and then the sharks came, and that was really impactful to see that. And at the time I gave it no thought, but as we move further into the 21st century, it's really clear that there's an imbalance. And so what inspired me to develop the Reynolds Group was my passion for engineering, my passion for the environment, and my passion to do my own thing and be around the water.
How does your love for the ocean motivate you to continue making progress in your business?
Well, here in Southern California, a lot of what when it rains in Southern California, or when it rains in Southern California, all of the rivers and creeks and concrete stream channels that we have lead to the ocean. So you might notice, Cana, that some of the drains that we have here in Tustin, for example, say don't throw something in here, drains to ocean.
Yeah, like a dolphin picture.
Right, like a dolphin picture. And so what my company does is we prevent and we help companies eliminate their runoff so that when it rains or when there's a stream flow, that the ocean stays clean. So what we do a lot in our business is create something. We apply for National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permits, NPDES permits, that allow our customers to discharge into bodies of water. So we have to make sure that everything our industrial clients discharge is clean. And so I've fallen in love with the ocean. Also, I scuba dive in the ocean, and I found out when I swim in the Pacific Ocean here at Newport Beach, when I'm swimming, I found out how smart dolphins are. Did you know that a dolphin can't see you? That it sends radar signals out to you,
Yeah.
and it knows you by the sides of your insides.
Yeah.
So dolphins became my friends. You can hear them when you're in the ocean, and they ping. They don't know me by what I look like. They know me by the size of my kidneys and the size of my liver. That's how smart they are. So when I'm in the ocean and when I'm scuba diving, I go, man, how could anybody do anything precious to the environment? So as I've grown in my business over the last 20 years, I used to not care about the environment. I thought it was like more important to extract oil and be in that side of it. I've really become more of an environmentalist as I'm getting older. Protecting the oceans, protecting the groundwater supplies, protecting the environment is a value that I hold really high.
Do you feel you can relate to the actions Rick O'Barry is taking in regards to this dolphin crisis in Taiji?
Well, as you explained to me and as you showed me in the videos that you sent me, Rick O'Barry, was he the guy that wrote Flipper?
Yeah, he was the guy who trained Flipper, and then Flipper committed suicide in his arms. Like, she took one last breath and never came back up, and then after that he like completely went against everything that he created. So he like pretty much created the whole like aquarium.
So have you ever seen
setup.
Flipper? Did you watch a few episodes? So when I was growing up as a boy, when I moved back to the United States, Flipper was like everything. It's beautiful because you've been to Florida, right? And Florida is, you can imagine having a Flipper in your backyard and being a pet and treating you really nicely. So yeah, Flipper was a big part of my life because Flipper, I think there's a big word that we use in all kinds of settings called anthropomorphize. Do you know what that word means? Well, dolphins seem to be really perfect for it because you can almost think that dolphins are people. They're so smart. They're probably smarter than dogs. I don't know where they fit on the pig scale, but they're really, really smart. So one of the things that we relate to as Americans, and as me, my generation, is a Flipper being a really smart, intelligent creature that has feelings. And so I think that Flipper kind of stories motivate our attitude and feelings towards these animals because they're really anthropomorphic. I mean, you don't feel the same way about a halibut or a sea bass or a lobster.
Yeah.
But Flipper is a really kind of personable thing. So I could see that if a guy like Rick O'Barry dedicated his life and is dedicating his life to these anthropomorphic creatures and discovers in this current environment that the Japanese are doing what they're doing to these animals, that it could be really upsetting. So I can relate to that.
If you were in his shoes, what actions would you take to prevent the slaughter?
Well, you know, I'm not sure that I have the time or capability right now to go be a surfer that sits in front of the Japanese boats and risk my life for the sake of the dolphins. And there are some people that'll take really radical stands like that. I think I can understand that. I can understand that the guys that get in front of the Japanese fishing vessels and get shot on by fire hydrants and so forth. Those are really radical actions. But what I've learned in my business world is that we have to figure out a sustainable way to do things. So I don't know, and you mentioned to me before the video started that dolphins are, worth $200,000 a piece, or there's an economic incentive by the Japanese to capture them and sell them. So what we have to do is create policies that change the economic incentives, and we have to educate and change the culture of the Japanese, and that's the side that I can work on. I'm not sure that I have the courage or the time to go out and stand in front of a harpoon that's going to kill a dolphin.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. So, but I can't say that I think he's wrong.
Why do you believe we must stop the slaughter of dolphins? We slaughter cows. Isn't that the same?
Well, certainly I said earlier that dolphins are these anthropomorphic creatures, and cattle are probably dumber on the IQ scale than dolphins. And it seems to me like we grow cattle intended directly for slaughter. I mean, the conditions under which cattle are raised are very confining, and they're oriented towards beef production. And it seems to me that we don't have any dolphin farms.
Mm-hmm.
So the dolphins seem to be running wild.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems like if there's truly a need for dolphin meat or dolphin pieces or dolphin kinds of things, then we need to assess that and not go into the open ocean and reduce their numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to tell you, Cana, that I don't know what the proper number of dolphins is. My son Frank works to protect sea otters, and there were 100,000 sea otters 100 years ago. No, 500,000 sea otters in California, and now there's only 3,000.
Wow.
And sea otters are also anthropomorphic creatures, and the fishermen tried to wipe them out because sea otters, they're just like dolphins. They take bait, they eat lobsters, they eat abalone, and the fishermen are out to kill them. And in Alaska, there's a senator that said for every sea otter that gets killed, you get $100 if you bring its pelt.
Wow.
But so we have to balance again. We have to find some balance between the proper number, the sustainable number of creatures, and certainly we don't want them to go extinct.
Yeah.
So I've never been approached about dolphins, but I certainly have opinions about sharks and sea otters and other little creatures. It's pretty amazing. Did you know that they banned fishing in Laguna Beach 5 years ago?
No.
And they just reopened.
That's good.
Yeah, and they just reopened Laguna Beach to limited fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, if you go out there and with a snorkel and you're diving, you can the life is teeming out there. It's unbelievable. So you should research a little bit about. So there, and then, have you read the book, The Perfect Storm?
Mm-mm. Oh.
By Sebastian Junger.
No.
So
I read the Pearl.
in the so in The Perfect Storm, there's this fish that you eat called the swordfish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, I remember when my mom, she ordered swordfish. She'll never forget that. And she said you go crazy because she ordered swordfish.
Yeah, you
and
know
then
why
she's
my
like,
story
I never
is?
ordered swordfish anymore.
Because 100 years ago, if you were a fisherman and you were like a Japanese guy that catches dolphins, and you were to throw your hook overboard and catch a swordfish, the average swordfish would be about 350 to 450 pounds. So they would be as big as this table and as thick as this table.
Yeah.
The average swordfish weight, according to The Perfect Storm, is down to about 95 pounds. So all they're catching now is juveniles and babies. So a swordfish isn't as smart as a dolphin.
Mm-hmm.
But the same thing applies, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That we're overfishing, we're overkilling.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of wrong to, we need to create a sustainable environment, which I completely support. So what I guess I'm saying is maybe antithesis to your thesis is that there might be a level of dolphin killing that I would support, but I need to know what the numbers are, because dolphins could tend to reproduce. It's kind of like the problem we have with bears. Bears are reproducing, so they give permits to bears, and then, things get out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't, for example, we can't shoot seals and sea lions off the coast of California anymore. So if you go to San Francisco, there's hundreds of them laying on the docks, and they smell and stink. And guess who eats sea lions?
Sharks?
Yeah, so guess what's going to come back?
Sharks?
Yeah, so we're going to have more shark attacks in Southern California.
Yeah.
So do we, sorry, I can go on and on.
Do you believe SeaWorld is hiding a dark secret and is a part of the dolphin trade?
So there's that movie Blackfish that has to do with orcas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about SeaWorld and keeping orcas.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would seem to me that as a result of that movie, that the corporation that owns SeaWorld is under a tremendous amount of pressure
Yeah.
to be eco-friendly.
Yeah.
So I would guess that they're trying to internally decide what is right. Do we continue to pay for, I don't know how they acquire dolphins, I don't know how they train dolphins, but there's certainly probably a lot of internal gut checking right now related to their corporation and their treatment of the animals.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things they're trying to weigh is, I would guess as a corporate businessman, is it worth it to pay $200,000, pay $1 million for 5 dolphins that we're going to keep in our tank at SeaWorld because kids get to come see them, and the kids, when you go see the dolphin show, what happens? You anthropomorphize dolphins. You go, man, these are cute little animals like Flipper.
Mm-hmm.
And so Cana MAnzella, who didn't get to see Flipper when she was growing up, she goes to the dolphin show and goes, this is really cool. I love dolphins. Why would anybody hurt a dolphin?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to weigh the benefits of having SeaWorld and having dolphins be shown as good animals that we want to keep versus not having SeaWorld.
Yeah, because it brings interest to the ocean.
It brings interest to the ocean. So I don't know. I don't have any information. I can't indict SeaWorld in this interview because I don't know. But I do know that they're under a lot of stress.
Yeah. Due to the movie The Cove, the world is drawn to this crime. Why is it the Japanese people know very little about the slaughter? Why do you think the government is hiding this from its citizens?
That's really interesting. Well, I went to Japan a couple of years ago, and I went to Tokyo, and I went into different parts of Japan, and I had the fortune of gaining some insight into the culture.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Japanese have sushi, and they have most of everything that the Japanese do has religious and spiritual connotations to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, if there's a clearly there's an economic demand for fish in Japan. I went to the Tokyo fish market at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the things I saw was incredible. They can have tuna that sell for like $14,000 a pound to go into the best sushi. So I think the Japanese government is really having a hard time coming to grips with the fact that dolphins are part of their portfolio problem.
Mm-hmm.
They have dolphins, they have whales, they have sharks, shark fin soup, and they have all kinds of marine things that they've been doing, which they're fishing to exhaustion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that the Japanese as a culture are ready to admit that what is being done is criminal. I'm not sure the Japanese government really wants to go viral or create campaigns that say that they've been overfishing when they're actually supporting all kinds of different trades. And so I think, as I said earlier, this is an area of politics and policy as opposed to Rick O'Berry and his surfer dudes who go out there and stand in front of the spears.
Mm-hmm.
The Japanese government, it's a policy thing, so it's a really great area of business getting into marine protection and policies and laws and incentives that will change the way the Japanese think and eat.
The fishermen say that they do the killing because of tradition and prevention of culture, yet their people do not know these actions. Do you believe that they abuse accusation just to keep making profit?
It seems to me from the materials you gave me, which depict the dolphin slaughter as a crime, and it's a terrible, terrible thing, that that the fishermen have gone beyond the spirituality of their tradition, and they're beginning. They have been motivated by some time for the economic benefits of harvesting dolphin. So they. Unfortunately, it looks like economic incentives have brought them way past their spiritual appreciation for balance. Do you agree? I mean, it just seems to me that money can corrupt, and it would be interesting to see. I'd like to know from these fishermen, to give them some benefit of the doubt, what was the spiritual nature of the dolphin, and what was the dolphin? I mean, when you go up to Alaska, and you look at the seals and the animals they kill, they use every piece. They use the seal fur, they use the blubber, and they use the meat, they use the bones. So when you look at the First Nations people in America, like the buffalo, buffalo are dumb like cattle, but the buffalo got blown out to extinction too. The Indians, the First Nations people used to think that there was a balance and harmony. So the buffalo roamed greatly, and there were great herds of them, and now they're reduced. So it seems like, don't you? I think these tribal people in Taiji have really gone overboard. It seems like, to the economic extreme.
IWC, which is the International Whaling Committee, is made to protect whales. Should they make a better effort to protect the other oceanic life like dolphins, for they are a descendant of whales? Right.
Well, is there a dolphin protective society?
Well, the International Whaling Committee tries to protect as much of the ocean life that it can, but it feels like, because Rico Berry went into a conference that they were all in, every country had a say in what was going on,
right.
And so Rico Berry went in there and had the cove on his chest of the video playing, and nobody, security immediately came in and took him out. And so it's kind of like they're not neglecting the dolphins, but they're not taking as much interest as they do whales.
Right. Well, that's kind of provocative. I don't know the numbers of dolphins that remain in the oceans, and I've never heard that dolphins are becoming extinct anywhere. I do know that there's hundreds of species of dolphins throughout the world. The dolphin that comes off the coast here in California is different than Flipper the dolphin in Florida. So we have all these species, and clearly whale populations have been decimated, right? So you have these majestic, large creatures that are less anthropomorphic, one would think, but they're maybe even smarter than dolphins, because they have these sounds and they speak to one another and all that, and they're huge and massive. But I think that the IWC hasn't accomplished its mission yet, so why would it want to expand its mission? Everything needs to be, we need to develop a sustainable vision, and I would think that IWC would support the dolphin community in their efforts too. But I'm not sure about IWC. I think you should go online and research them and see what their mission is,
Dolphin meat has a high content of mercury, yet the Japanese government is giving it away in children's lunches of schools surrounding Taiji. How do you feel about this?
My God, if it's true, that's we deal with a lot of mercury here at the Reynolds Group.
Yeah.
And mercury is a terrible chemical. I think it might even be a teratogen. A teratogen is something that causes birth defects. So
they had in Japan they had, it was something started with an M. It was like,
Mutagen?
I think so. They called it that because it like took over all of Taiji, because they would stick the dolphin meat in like a fake advertisement. They would say like shark meat or like whale meat or something, and then they would stick the mercury in there because they had so many dolphin like flesh left over. They didn't know what to do with it, so the fishermen would just stick it in there, and the government would sell it. And
That's
then,
criminal.
yeah.
So I mean, it seemed to me that there's law, that the Japanese government needs to enforce its own laws. And I don't know why this particular clan gets to be exceptional, but it would seem that elevated levels of mercury are really intolerable.
Do you know any other facts regarding mercury, like poisoning or?
Yeah, I mean, you want me to print you out some facts on mercury before you leave?
Yeah.
Alright, I will.
Based on the research shown in the cove, dolphins have the intelligence to understand sign language, understand commands given to them, as well as match pictures that are relatable. Do you believe that the Japanese are killing a species that could provide greater knowledge to humans?
Well, I already brought up the point that dolphins are intelligent, and we look at them as being anthropomorphic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do you know that the U.S. Navy is using dolphins to plant mines?
No.
So yeah, so dolphins are being used by the U.S. Navy and the Navy SEALs to deliver ordnance and scan for ordnance and being rewarded for that. So dolphins are being used like dogs in airports by the U.S. Navy. So I believe that also, again, I think we're over, to some extent, this interview is providing a special emphasis on dolphins, but some of the best pharmaceuticals and cures for cancer have come out of sea sponges. You know the sea sponges, like sea cucumber?
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're really dumb. They're animals that are just, when you touch them, they squirt their guts out.
Yeah.
And so everything has a potential to provide greater knowledge to humans. And it seems to me like dolphins, with their ability to relate to humans, they're killing a species that could provide greater knowledge to humans. Isn't that an answer? Yes.
Yeah.
Seems to me like the dolphins that know me off the coast of Newport, I'm actually told that they would come and bump into me if there was a shark coming. That's how smart they are.
That's true.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
The Japanese government believes this hunt is a pest control. They believe the dolphins are eating too much fish. What are your thoughts on this reason?
So that is a very valid and possible explanation for giving these people in the city the license to go get dolphins. Well, I don't know how it's enforced. So if the dolphins are spreading like pigeons in New York City, then I don't know. So I need a little bit of research on that. So you can have a certain overpopulation of the species. So I have no idea what the status is regarding pest control. I mean, are dolphins considered to be like rats? Maybe they are.
The dolphins have always travel from everywhere. So then, during the months of September to April is when the dolphins are traveling through Taiji, and so that's when the fishermen go out on their boats and get everything prepped for when the dolphins come through. But it never states I need to do further research and see if the dolphins are actually there for longer, but from what it seems like so far, what I've done, it's like the dolphins just come and go, but they stalk them and then they like get as many as they can. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So it'd be interesting to really understand the government's position on that. There's a difference between fish. You know, it's just like shooting too many bears in the forest, because we're all of a sudden nobody can do anything about bears. So now the bears are all over the place, and there's more bears than ever because we're not allowed to shoot the bears or keep natural selection going.
Yeah.
So when man plays with the environment, it wreaks havoc. One thing can grow out of control, and then, you know, like bears, maybe they eat all the blueberries in the park, and then the blueberries die, and whoever else ate blueberries, like bees, the bees go away. So the problem is everything is so inextricably linked to each other that our environment is really, 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 really complicated. And so I don't know much, but it would seem to me that the Japanese government, I don't know, ordering these killings versus giving permits to give the killings is a whole different thing. Right?
Do you think Japanese government is ordering these killings of dolphins in order to prevent the scarcity of fish due to the fact that Japan is the main fish distributor around the world?
If the dolphins are eating this huge volume of fish, then I would say yeah. If the dolphins truly deplete the harvest of fish, then that would be the Japanese government's motivation. Clearly, the Japanese government is motivated. The marine, harvesting the oceans for the Japanese who are isolated on an island is a really, really, really important part of their culture, and it's part of their economy, and it's part of their environment. So the Japanese are in this quandary right now, trying to figure out the right way to go. It's no different than SeaWorld. The SeaWorld people, they're under a microscope now.
Yeah.
So what's the Japanese government going to do?
Well, that concludes our interview, and the time is 5:43, and I hope you enjoy watching. Thank you.